Yo, people, lateness is greatness. You already know what time it is. It's time for the Chelsea versus Real Madrid preview, and I'm joined by my byline buddy, Alex Goldberg. How you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm bricking it already. You know, it's only Tuesday morning where I am here in Boston, and we don't play until really Wednesday late evening where I am, but I'm already bricking it. But I'm good.
The only person we're missing from this is CFC Daily, but I'm sure he's writing up the report for the game or something. I mean, first of all, the press conference not being at 1 took me by surprise. I just assume at this point that it's at 1 because it's always at 1, and then they move it to
Champions League stuff, man. You know, it's always a little different, I think.
Yeah, so we don't have, I guess, Thomas Tuchel's words and all of his updates. But to be honest, at this point, we know the team because Real Madrid have already released their squad, and we know the only injury or issue we have is Mateo Kovacic. And Alex, first of all, obviously, you said you're bricking it. I'm bricking it. Talk to me about just how confidence levels going into it, because I think everybody after the first leg was kind of on a high because it was a good result, good performance. And then when everybody's kind of like thought about it and realized, yo, we didn't really take advantage, did we?
Yeah, that's the thing. You know what? I've actually caught myself a few times this last week thinking that we were up 1 in the aggregate. Like, I've been overall, I would say confident, especially if you're thinking about playing Real Madrid in a Champions League semifinal. I have actually been kind of confident throughout the week when I've thought about it, but maybe that's because I've literally been thinking that we were up 1-0. I know it's 1-1, but we were up against Atletico and Porto going into these second legs, not by a lot, but I've almost had that feeling. And because we were the better team, Matisse, against Real Madrid. So that's another reason. But yeah, now I'm really nervous. I mean, I still have a confidence within me, but this is Real Madrid. You and I talked about it before we started recording. It seems like they're actually going to have just about all of their team available. Obviously not Vasquez, who's out for the season. It seems like Varane's out, but still a whole lot of characters they didn't have last week. And it's Real Madrid. I mean, this is what they live for. This is a second leg in a Champions League semifinal. So, yeah, I'm just nervous because we are puppies compared to them. But we'll be at home. We did get that all-important, at least one away goal. So I have confidence. But, yeah, I'm a heck of a lot more nervous now than I was like 5 days ago.
Yeah, I was watching ESPN's preview, the coverage of this game, and they just said to kind of everything I was thinking, which is that, and I'm usually very confident going into almost every Chelsea game. But as I said, in that first leg, because we don't have that lead, a 2-1 lead, and I would have been completely different because then, you know, even if you concede, you're still actually winning on away goals. But I was watching their coverage and they just said, you didn't kick them while they were down. And now it's a free hit for them because they can't play any worse. They're not going to probably play the same formation. We saw in that first leg, they played a 3 at the back. I think even Varane missing is probably advantage Madrid, to be honest. I think a lot of their fans have been saying Militao is someone that they want to put next to Ramos anyway because Varane's been a bit shaky in that first leg. I mean, what do you make of, you know, just in terms of the shape that they're going to bring? Because I think over the weekend, I don't know if you saw the game, but Hazard was playing as the number 10. Yeah. And obviously they rested Kroos and Modric as well, obviously for this game, which was quite smart of them. We did the same thing in our game. How do you think they're gonna line up? Do you think they'll change back to a back 4?
I feel like they will because Ramos will be back and they might have Ferland Mendy starting. It seems like he'll be available for the game. Yeah. Whether he starts or not, we'll see. But I think they're probably more comfortable having him start as a real left back than Marcelo these days. Yep. So with Ramos back and with Mendy maybe available to start, I definitely could see that. Militao has been playing well lately for Real Madrid. Obviously, he has less experience than Varane, especially in big games. But if Ramos is back, then maybe Militao just has to focus on being himself and he can kind of just branch off of Ramos's leadership. Like you mentioned, they rested Kroos and Modric, and I'm not sure their midfield players will always give away their formation because those guys are going to start in any big game, no matter the formation. But I definitely could see a bit more of a classic Real Madrid formation in this game. The only wrinkle, though, is what you mentioned of Eden Hazard starting at the 10 over the weekend, when I think we've probably been envisioning him getting that left wing start against us in this second leg. And I still feel like that's the way they're going to go, which means they would have a back 4. But I guess just the fact that they've now, even in recent weeks, shown 2 different ways they can go, it's a little something extra for Tuchel to think about. It's a little something extra for us maybe to be nervous about. But I will say, Matisse, I think this is important to note. I'm not sure how many post shows, whether it's on YouTube or podcasts, mention this, but Tuchel did say after the first leg that he was expecting the back four from Real Madrid. And then once they saw the lineup, they saw when we saw it pretty much, at least according to Tuchel, once they saw it was a different shape, they had to make some last minute tweaks. And we started that game guns a-blazing. So I think we do have the right manager for us not knowing what the opposition is going to do. I do think clearly he's already shown an ability to tweak some things on the fly and have the group respond to that. So it's always dangerous when you don't know what formation a great team like Real Madrid will play, but at least we have the right manager to be prepared for either scenario. I love Frank, so this is not a dig at Frank, but I'd feel a lot more nervous if Frank was in charge just because we don't know what the opponent's going to play.
Yeah, I think those finer details now at this level are crucial. We're able to flex systems. I remember when Pochettino had that run with Tottenham, I think Juventus second half, he changed the formation to a back three and just completely swayed the whole game and the whole tie. Another player that's obviously on their way back for Real Madrid, and obviously I know you watch a lot of them because little Benzema crush and Hazard and everything, but Mendy, talk about him because I feel like I've been trying to push this danger warning sign for a while that Mendy is a better left back for that Real Madrid team, the way that they play, than Marcelo. Marcelo's a very technical footballer, but he has lost a bit of his pace. And I think Mendy can go both ways, and he's very energetic and quite a good dribbler, and close control is very good. And we've seen that against Liverpool. Him and Vinicius on that left-hand side kind of ripped up Trent. You know, the issue with us as well is that at the moment, we're playing Aspie at right wing back, and obviously he was rested over the weekend as well. The debate starts of whether we should play Aspie at right wing back or Reece James. We're not leading. If we were winning 2-1, I'd probably be more comfortable with Aspie if they actually decided on that. But with the game so finely poised, I feel like we have to enter it like it's 0-0 and go for the game and play normally how we did in the first leg. So who do you think should take that position? Because obviously then, you know, Christensen is in danger as well. If you're not playing Aspie at right wing back, he's naturally probably going to just have to start at right side centre back.
Yeah, so I'm going to go under the assumption, and it's a little dangerous to assume things, but I'll go under the assumption it's Mendy and Azar on the left for Real Madrid. So that really makes me want to say start Reece James, because I know Mendy is definitely a bit more responsible on both ends than Marcelo is. Obviously, we know Marcelo can really be caught out. So if it was Marcelo and Eden Hazard on the left, I would say you got to start with Reece, because he could have a heck of a lot of space there on his right side, I shall say, because Marcelo and Hazard can't be arsed to really play defense. But Mendy's a bit more of a balance. With that said, still, how experienced is Mendy in these moments in this game? Clearly not as much as Marcelo, and we know Eden Hazard is just not going to change even for a game. It's not to say he won't track back a little bit. He has certainly done defensive things in big games, but it's still usually with the ball at his feet. So I think no matter how Real Madrid line up, and maybe it's biased for me, I want Reece to start. And I probably see that as unlikely at this point, especially like you mentioned with Aspie getting rest over the weekend. But I said it on the post pod just a few days ago. I would start Reece at right wing back. And actually, I would have Christensen as the right center back and Silva in the middle and Rudiger at left center back, which means, yes, I would be sitting Aspie. But I would actually kind of do the reverse at right wing back from what's been happening lately. So lately, Azpilicueta has been getting that start at right wing back, and then you've seen Reece come in at the end. This time, I would do it the opposite. I would start Reece there, and I would probably then, 60, 65 minutes. Hopefully, it's a lead we're protecting, right? Yeah. And I'd bring Azpilicueta in. And Azpilicueta for 25, 30 minutes in the second leg of a Champions League semifinal. If he gives 110% normally, he'll give 150% in this case. And you'll be able to rely on somebody that's a bit more experienced when it really gets tough going. And I would go with the three traditional center backs in the back there for a couple reasons. I mean, Silva and Rudiger, obviously, but Christensen's been so immense lately at right center back. And we know that Tuchel used pretty much the same reasoning to start three traditional center backs against West Ham in the same way against Real Madrid. We know one of the ways Real Madrid can hurt us is in the air on set pieces. So I am pro having Christensen at right center back. So like I said, I think Azpilicueta will start at right wing back. And if he does, hey, hopefully he does shut down Ferland Mendy's danger, because he is really dangerous. I mean, you have been, like you said, warning people for a little while. He's really good at getting forward in incisive ways too. Yeah, he can just go out wide, but he can even get a little cheeky, go inside, then cut outside once he gets into the attacking half. So at the end of the day, if it is Aspi, he certainly will know to keep an eye on his friend Eden and also Mendy. And how can you argue with the leadership? But me personally, I would go Reece for the beginning of the game at least.
Yeah, I think that left-hand side is going to be a key part of this game. Of course, we know the midfield, but I feel like the midfield is an obvious threat, Kroos and Modric, but we kind of, with Kante and Jorginho and Mount, that's kind of an obvious three. With Mount just starting ahead of them, that's going to start. That's not hard to guess. We did outrun them and also we kind of did dominate them as well in the fact that we was able to nullify their threat. And I think because we have Mason Mount and Kante who will harry them and won't give them time on the ball, I'm not as worried about them picking out passes. Of course, long shots and things like that as well. But I think we blocked off the passing lanes really well. And I've said it before, I think Mason Mount versus De Bruyne in the Man City game was something that wasn't really spoken about much. I made it my mission to just watch how we covered up the passing lanes to De Bruyne, because if you get the ball into De Bruyne, anything can happen. But Mason was really tracking him, and we know Kante is going to do that as well. But I think the unknown threat right now is obviously Ramos is another one that's very obvious. Set pieces. I think that left-hand side could be where the game is won and lost, because I'm looking at that Fulham game as well. If there's anything that we can take from it into this game in terms of form or in terms of shape, obviously we played more of a 3-1-4-2, I guess you could say, with Billy Gilmour as the 6, Ziyech and Mason drop deep. I didn't get to speak to you on the byline about that assist, but I guess right now we have to speak about it, because Mason has turned up in these big Champions League games. He had a great game at against Atletico, scored, I believe, against Porto as well, didn't he? So do you think how crucial do you think he will be in this game? Because he's obviously going to start, and this is a big, big night. This is the kind of night where Lampard puts through Ramirez. This is like do or die now.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is Lampard was significantly older when he put through Ramirez. Mason is playing as a pretty fresh 22-year-old, and it's wild to think that he has not just become really our best player this season, but really our best big game player. With that said, we've had a lot of guys when needed to step up in big games, especially defensively. We've been able to grit it and gut it out consistently. So credit to everybody in all these big games. And I will say for Mason and the whole team, I do think it helps that at this point we had these ties against Atletico and Porto where, yeah, I know at Porto technically we kind of broke it open late, but still these were tight ties in the Champions League. And hopefully now this team's a bit more battle tested. And getting back to Mason, I mean, yeah, the assist was absolutely outrageous. It was really hard not to tweet about it, but still I certainly was heard about it from others. And yeah, I mean, Mason is already one of the players, despite his age, who I think won't be too afraid of the big stage in this game. I know this is the biggest game of his career at this point. This is the biggest game of a lot of people's career at this point. With that said, I mean, Mason, even in his young career, remember for Derby, he went through the championship playoff. He did play in the Champions League championship final. Obviously, with Chelsea, he has been part of some big games. This is as big as they come, but he's the type of kid that relishes these moments. He obviously lives for a Champions League night. That's what he always dreamt of. So he's going to be a key man. And I mean, I think specifically for Mason, the way he started off that first leg, dribbling through Real Madrid's midfield, and obviously we know what happened at the end of the play with Werner's miss. But I just think right away he knows entering the second leg, I belong, and they're going to need me. My teammates are going to need me. So, yeah, I expect definitely Mason to, at the very least, not look shook, and he'll certainly be important. I think it's one of those ones where Tuchel doesn't look at Saturday against City at all with Mason, and he probably plays the entire game.
Yeah, and the thing is as well with this game, which is you mentioned the defense. Obviously, they've been a building block, a foundation for us as a team since Tuchel's arrived. Mendy made some big saves on the weekend as well to keep us 1-0 up at halftime. You spoke about the tweeting thing. As that touch happened and Havertz scored, I went on Twitter and I was typing. I was like, no, hold on. I was so close because it was literally the combination that everybody wanted to see, because they had serious chemistry in that first half. And I'm wondering to myself, when I say if we can take anything from that Fulham game into this game, I saw you tweet it. I'm definitely thinking it. I said it with Elizabeth and Daniel yesterday. I think Kai Havertz, for me, should be starting this game. And the reason why is not just because he was really good in front of goal, there is a high chance that this game could go to extra time because it's 1-1. It's a very realistic scoreline. It would not surprise me one bit. And also, if I'm bringing people off the bench, I think Aspie's a great example of someone that come off the bench if we're leading, but also Timo Werner. You know, if you're telling me Timo Werner can come off the bench, and then they have to think about their defensive line dropping a bit back because they know the threat in behind, and you bring him on as this Fernando Torres against Barcelona, who really just had energy to burn because you're only on for 20 minutes and you know the threat in behind, that suits it. But I think because the game's going to be so cagey and Real Madrid don't have to come out and just all guns blazing because they only need one goal, I think it's very important that you have a clinical striker up front or a clinical player up front in Kai Havertz. And we saw the finishing on the weekend. He is probably one of the most clinical players in the team, despite not even scoring that many goals. I think him, Mason, and Pulisic as a front three, that's probably as clinical as it gets outside of having Giroud.
I agree. It's the way Kai finishes, right? When he shoots in front of goal, actually, he makes the chances look even easier, but he just finishes with such confidence. So like you said, it's not a high volume of goals he's had this season, but there are some situations where I'm very confident Kai is scoring, where I'm not so much with Timo, at least at this point. Now, I totally hear the argument for Timo to start. I really do. I mean, I get the whole aspect of Timo's pace, his runs in behind. It could mess with how Real wants to attack, even how they want to push up with their center backs. I totally get that. I also get maybe the argument against Kai, right? If Ramos is back, I heard someone on Twitter say, well, Ramos does well against calmer forwards, calmer strikers. And it's a weird term, but I get what that person meant. Kai is definitely calmer in just how he moves around out there. He's not lazy, but anybody against Timo is calmer than Timo. Timo, obviously. That's why we really never slam Timo too much, because it's just go, 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 and you got to commend that. And it's obviously annoying for the opposition. Like, Timo could miss 5 sitters. I still think if you ask the opposition center backs if they enjoy playing against him, I still think they'd say no. He's just annoying to play against. So I do get the argument for Timo and also against Kai. But to piggyback off of what you said, I'd love to see Kai just continue his individual form. Forget the opposition, but his individual form from Saturday. Because if we do score a goal, certainly if we score 2 goals, but a goal is huge. I think we know that, because then if Real score, they don't win it. Obviously, we just continue on because it's 1-1. Like you said, that's a very realistic scoreline. So I'd love to just put out our best chance front three-wise of scoring early on. And then, of course, the Timo aspect. I already tweeted about it, too, under my original tweet about Kai, of Timo's pace off the bench could be really deadly. You have 5 subs. You got to think about that. I did see someone say in response to me, yeah, but you got to start the game fast. Don't play for a sub. Well, I get that. But like you just said, Matisse, I still think the score line is going to be rather tight when you would bring in someone off the bench anyway. So it's not like if you start Kai, it's going to be 3-0 no matter what to Real Madrid. So I think you give yourself a good chance to score a goal early on with Pulisic, Kai, and Mount. And then who knows? I mean, maybe they can break it open a bit. I do see us certainly hitting on the counter, and I know that's the argument for Timo. But why is it also not the argument for Kai as well? Especially when Pulisic's out there who can just turn and go. Like, Pulisic can start counters out of nothing. We know Mount can create counters. And Kai's speed is really, really underrated, in my opinion. So I hear the arguments for both, but I go with Kai because at the end of the day, I want a confident finisher out there. And right now I see that as Kai over Timo.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think when we talk about the front three that we just mentioned, it's not like as if they're slouches. They can run. So you will still have that counter-attacking threat, but also on the ball, in terms of ball control and link-up play, it slightly might improve as well, because we know Timo's first touch can be dodgy at times. I'm just looking at our past fixtures since Tuchel's arrived. I don't think we've ever conceded more than 1 goal outside of the West Brom game. And obviously that's my fear, right? If we concede 2 goals in this game, that is just, for me, the complete disaster. But on the lighter side as well, this team is very good at keeping clean sheets. We are literally a Brighton performance, as disgusting as it was, away from reaching the Champions League final, which would only be the 3rd time in our history. I think people are starting to realize just how big this is, because Chelsea's semi-final record is quite underwhelming. We get to quite a lot of semi-finals in the Roman era, but we never seem to really progress outside of those 2 times. Obviously, I'm not going to go through the games to bring, depression back into everyone's lives. But literally, when you go through the games that we've lost in the semi-final, you could just go down a list of teams that have managed to knock us out. Do you think
I just want to, you're right. And just to piggyback off of you saying that 1-1 could be a likely scoreline when you get later in the game. And obviously, I think we should take confidence in knowing what you just said. Games usually don't get away from us under 2 goals. We usually do keep it tight. One little tiebreaker, if you're really on the fence between Timo and Kai starting the game, one little tiebreaker. I actually mentioned it at the end of the post pod that you unfortunately couldn't be part of. If you're debating between Timo and Kai, remember, Real Madrid, they're good on set pieces. They can hurt you on set pieces. Back on Saturday, it wasn't just the 2 goals that Kai Havertz scored. I think he had at least 3, maybe 4 clearances. And I know 2 or 3 of them were actually being near post, defending corners, using his height, similar to how Tammy will do that as well. Kai, I swear, there were like 3 plays that were all identical where Fulham were taking awful corners, but Kai was right there, perfect heading motion, cleared it away. So who knows? You know, we have heard managers and coaches in the past use height on set pieces as a reasoning. Sometimes it's more for an Alonso who is more of a defender, but it still matters. Everyone defends in some way when you're facing a set piece. So maybe Kai Havertz's height gives him the edge.
Yeah, it's crucial because Alonso's not going to play this game over Chilwell. I'd be shocked if that happened. And Zuma's definitely not going to play over those centre-backs. I think the reason why you bring in Thiago Silva is to play this type of game. Yes, he's played quite a few games on the bounce now, and that's not usual for him. But even still, I think if Rudiger had been, you know,
Silva would have rested,
then Silva would have rested. But I think there's no way in hell you can drop or rest Thiago Silva for a semi-final second leg, so he's going to play.
You got me for this. I hate to interrupt you, but I had a couple patrons actually, Matisse, in the episode you missed.
Really?
Great patrons, but I had a couple patrons not put Silva in the middle. They put Christensen there. And my mind was boggled because you literally got Thiago Silva for a second leg of a semifinal. He was just there last year. He played in a second leg of a semifinal last season. Obviously, he played in the final as well. You literally got him for this. So what are you going to say? Hey, Thiago, we know you're by far our most experienced in this situation, but you know what? You've played too much, so you can sit. What?
There's just absolutely no way. For me, personally, there's no chance. And I'm just receiving this breaking news. I don't know if this is actually true, but I'm going onto Twitter to find out that Jose Mourinho, is he back already? As Roma manager next season?
No, that's gotta be. Come on, there's no way that's true.
Because the Roma manager is leaving. That is confirmed already.
Wow, Fabrizio Romano. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Official club account tweet. Wow. And the thing is, you know what's so funny about that is he just signed a deal with TalkSport, and I was like, really, you're downgrading from now? You're going to TalkSport? Really? This is ridiculous. You've gone from like, you know, leading us to Premier League titles and everything. Now you're a radio host. But just like that, he's gone to Roma. He is slowly declining clubs wise, but that is incredible that he's just gone. Yeah, appointed as new manager. When does that start? Yeah, the start of the 2021-22 season.
Most people thought that was going to be Sarri, and Fab in his tweet said Sarri was never an option.
Yeah.
That's mad, man. You know, hold on. I want to give you a raw take right now. Just off the back of that
is
news.
Incredible. Wow.
You know my ongoing stance on Mourinho these days. You know.
Yeah.
I think that in order for him to become Mourinho again in club football, he has to do some real soul searching. He has to really change how he treats players and just views the modern player.
Yeah.
Now, one could argue, fine, but he's getting out of the Premier League. He's going to a different league, maybe a step down. So maybe it'll be more his level. Maybe he'll find his new home and he'll be the special one again. Come on. Who's buying that? This guy can't even take a 3-week break from being a manager. Like, he's so addicted to being in charge, being someone's boss. I love him for what he did for Chelsea, but this is no way to improve your management. It's absolutely no way, Matisse. Like, in order for him to become the special one again, he has to take way more time off than he just did. Roma's not going to win Serie A next season. They're not going to win the Champions League next season. They're highly likely not going to win Europa League next season. So he's once again a manager you only hire for trophies. What are Roma doing? What is he doing? Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, it's for me, because I personally, obviously, he's very young for a manager still. So I think the international thing was going to always be unrealistic for him to go to Portugal and that soon in his career. But I do agree with you. I think just a bit of time out, man. Just even a year, just as a pundit, just looking at the game, reshaping your mind and coming back. I'm surprised that this is not even a break. This is literally, I've just been sacked and I'm going back in next season. Like, there's no break whatsoever. And
3 weeks ago, he was preparing a Tottenham team.
It is going to be interesting though, him versus Conte. I don't even think Roma are going to be challenging like that anyway, even not in the first season. Obviously, Juventus, I mean, he's looking at this as a good opportunity to try and, I don't know how ambitious Roma are going to be. Surely you have to be very ambitious if you're going to take him at this point, in his career. You have to back him. Financially, you just can't not give Mourinho money at this point. But Juventus are obviously down on their luck. They're obviously pillar in charge. They're looking like a shadow of themselves. AC Milan, they were in the race, but they've dropped off as well. Inter Milan obviously went on to win it with Conte. You don't think there's even a slim chance of him challenging in any way, shape, or form Conte next season with just because it's Mourinho?
He's not going to challenge Conte's Inter, but that's if it's Conte's Inter. We know that even though Conte just won the Scudetto and ended Juve's reign, and it seems like he's now building something special at Inter, we also know that there's still an option that Conte won't even be at Inter next season. He's that type of a guy. It's such a volatile relationship between him and his club that at any moment he could be gone. So if Conte was gone from Inter, and obviously Juve, we just don't know what's happening. They're clearly not the Juve we've seen for a long time. And whether Pirlo stays or goes, I think most are unconvinced right now, and rightfully so. So maybe if Conte left, then there is an avenue for Jose and Roma to do something. But I pay a lot of attention to Serie A since I still do a podcast on the side about it. And Roma can be a nice team here and there. They can have really nice runs of form. But the way they're constructed these days, how they operate, they just can't even supply Jose, in my opinion, with what he really wants to be supplied with. So I just think it's really unlikely for Jose to bring Roma into this big European conversation and even one of the top dogs in Serie A. Like top 4? Sure. But I don't see them winning the Scudetto. I really, really don't. Maybe, though, the one thing I'll add to balance it out is Mourinho has trouble with superstars these days. Yeah. Well, at Roma, I'm not sure he'll have many superstars. So who knows? Maybe that'll work for him.
It's going to be very interesting, man. Obviously, that is just come out of nowhere, so that's funny. But we'll take it back to the Chelsea versus Real Madrid preview. I can't believe that's just happened. This super chat says Timo needs to show up. I'm tired of these missed chances. I mean, that is really my only gripe with Timo right now for playing this game is the missed chances. Because if he was even taking a few more of these chances and was just semi prolific in front of goal, then I think there would be a bigger case to start him, because Ramos at his age, the pace, the fact that he's going to draw him out wide, he's going to create space for others running centrally to score. Pulisic will have the space, etc. I think that could definitely work in our favor, and it does force them to think what's behind them instead of just piling on the attacks. But with that finishing, I just personally, my heart rate can't take any missed chances, and I'm talking not even normal missed chances. These are glaring opportunities he's missing. He's almost become a creator over a striker. That assist for Havertz over the weekend was great. Maybe we've got it wrong. Maybe he's not a striker, Alex.
You know what? It wasn't just the assist to Kai, but remember the play where Mount did a great through ball to Timo over on the right, and then Timo put a pretty good pass in for Ziyech, and pretty good save, I think, by Areola there. So, I think Timo's passing has been way more consistent than his finishing. So, listen, we can use still every game the same excuse and reasoning to start Timo. Besides his pace and energy, we can say, well, he creates the chances, so maybe he can now capitalize off of his chances. And if he does in this game, all will be forgotten. And that's not wrong. You're right. If Timo scores 1, 2, if he does anything and we move on and he obviously scores a goal, then we'll say, hey, that goal was way more important than all of your previous misses. So that's true. But I still feel like it's not till next season where we can really look at Timo with confidence going into a game that'll score, because I think he's at that point where he knows he can make the chances and he knows he can probably get applauding from his teammates. I think you probably saw that article the other day where Azpilicueta and Jorginho were rooting him on after he missed a chance, but he got in a good area. I'm sure Tuchel is always at least applauding where he gets into space-wise. So I think he knows he can get that type of a reception, but I don't think he even believes that he can fully hit the ground running goal-wise until next season. So knowing that scares me a little bit. So, yeah, I just don't even want to know what would happen for Timo, perception-wise in the public, if he missed another big chance in this game and we didn't move on. Like, that could be really, really damaging to how he's viewed as a Chelsea player. And I just feel like, don't hide him completely. Like I said, I think he could still be really useful off the bench. But also, if he's coming off the bench already, the pressure's changed a little bit on him. He wasn't used from the get-go. Maybe if he's coming off the bench, hopefully this isn't the case, but he's being used to be a savior, or he's just being used to be a distraction. Like, maybe we're protecting a lead and now his pace is going to make it so their center backs, while they're trying to equalize and get back in the game, their center backs can't push up enough because Timo's pace is out there. So I'd rather hide him a little bit and not just put everything on him, because A, I just am not convinced he will come through, and B, my God, the fallout if he really did start, had 4 chances, missed them all, and we didn't move on, it would be astronomical on him, and that just wouldn't be good.
Yeah, I have another point to raise, because I think it was mentioned yesterday, which was quite a good point. Obviously, Rudiger, we'd expect him to start because of the, I think he's going to wear a face mask, and we was just joking yesterday that we seem to be the only club that players will wear face masks on a continuous basis, from Pedro to Cahill to Torres. Like, it's just ridiculous the amount of players that
wore face wear masks. One for a little bit. I feel like Cesc also wore one for a little.
Yeah, Cesc definitely did. Demba Ba, I think maybe. We've had a lot. Like, it's been ridiculously the amount of people that have worn face masks. But they brought Zuma into the conversation only because obviously we know Rudiger's the mainstay at left side of centre back, and you wouldn't want to take him out in a game like this. After the way that he's dealt with Suarez and previous players this season under Tuchel. But we are not a threat from set pieces without Zuma. And that Mount to Zuma connection is very, very strong. And I don't know, it's just in a team that struggles to score goals, you kind of have to take every single avenue possible. And that seems like an avenue we can't take. Is there anything in your mind that even slightly says to you Zuma some way in this team? Obviously, he played at the weekend, but it's very unlikely, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is unlikely, because we've heard Tuchel already say that Rudiger will probably play with a mask. So if Tuchel's already saying that, then it just feels like he's telling you who his left center back will be. With that said, earlier in this stream, I was cheekily thinking about Zuma, maybe, because we know Real Madrid's threat in the air, and Zuma isn't just great at scoring goals. He's amazing at clearing, obviously, balls into his own box, defending them. So there's an argument for Zuma. Like, if you're a good lawyer, you can probably really make a nice case for Zuma to start this game. Yeah. With that said, I do think that if Mount's on a set piece, Rudiger and Silva are at least threats to score. They haven't done it nearly as much as Zuma, but man, last season, Rudiger had 2 goals in a game, both headers, I believe. One was definitely from Mount. And we know Mount assisted Silva earlier this season off of a corner. Yeah. So I think it's enough. And if you also add on, obviously, what Rudiger and Silva are bringing defensively in this formation, I think it's enough where we can say, you know what, Zuma, yes, you are our best threat here on both ends of the ball in the air, but the defense is really good with these other 3, and Silva and Rudiger at least can score a header. Rudiger also almost scored one a few weeks back. It was off another Mount delivery, but it was cleared on the line. I forget the opposition, but it was close. The unfortunate part, the guy's been flawless since Tuchel took over. Christensen, just been immense, but he still hasn't scored a goal for Chelsea. So yeah, it's funny because you put him in against a West Ham or Real because he's traditional center back and he's taller than Aspi, and he will be better in the air just factually because he is definitely taller. But man, it would be nice if Christensen could maybe get his first ever Chelsea goal in the second leg against Real Madrid. This energy, let's put it out there.
Yeah. Do you know what it is as well with Rudiger is that playing out from the back, he's been really good. I think he's definitely, Zuma definitely still gives me worries at times, but Rudiger's been immense. That pass for Pulisic, no one's really spoken about it, but it was like a no-look David Luiz kind of pass where he just floated it over the top. It was brilliant. And obviously we know he likes to go on those mazy runs as well down the left channel.
And yeah, well, those are a little scary, but you're right. He did a couple games ago to that a lot. It was the game where Alonso was out there with him. Who were we playing? Maybe it was West Ham. I'm not sure. I forget. But also Rudiger, not just with that assist to Pulisic, but his switches are pretty damn good. I think people need to probably give him more credit for his switches. He switches play well. So if Real Madrid, like I'm thinking if Rudiger is at left center back, right, and then obviously the far corner, so the exact opposite would be technically where Ferland Mendy is supposed to be, maybe Eden Hazard also covering in that area. So if they're not where they're supposed to be, Rudiger is definitely a good threat to switch play to Reece or Aspie. Like, even if it's Aspie, we know, we joked about it after the first leg. Aspie is still going to try and take advantage of that space. He tried to in that first leg many times. So Rudiger really is a threat to switch play if he sees a lot of space open there on his right-hand side for Chelsea.
I think did we mention, just before I get to these super chats, and everybody can get in their questions as well if they want to ask anything. Did we see Aspie in that? Was it the Real Madrid game where he was making those runs, like those weird Theo Walcott-esque runs? It was strange.
He got pretty pissed at Jorginho, I think, one time when he didn't get played in because he was doing that classic sideways to make sure he was onside, which we've seen some of the best. Aguero is like amazing at it, or at least he used to be for sure. So Aspie was giving me a good laugh doing that. But I said it, I think, on the post pod with you. Even though Aspie definitely is way more of a defensive player, he does show his understanding of the difference between right center back and right wing back. So he does at least try and occupy the space that a right wing back should. It's just once he gets the ball at feet, there's a lot less dynamism in what he can do.
Yeah, facts. Literally, I couldn't have said it any better. This super chat here says, if Mendy plays, then we will play Havertz. To Alex's point, height matters and Mendy brings more size than Marcelo. That's a good point. I don't know if Marcelo is Mendy really a threat from set pieces like that. I haven't really seen anything from him to suggest that.
I mean, I wouldn't call him a threat, but he is taller than Marcelo. So at Marcelo at this point, I mean, he's a legend in the game, but it's not like once he got older, he decided to change his game and become more defensive because maybe he lost some pace. Like, he didn't try and reinvent himself. So with Marcelo, you're just getting Marcelo, just an older version. So I'm not dumping on the player at all. Like I said, legend. And if he's still good enough to play for Real Madrid at all, he's still clearly a great player. But Mendy is just such a much fresher and dangerous version on both sides, I think, at this point.
Yeah. This super chat from Fazid says, I was 9 years old when Ghost Goal happened. Jesus, don't even remind me. 13 when Iniesta happened, crying in my dad's lap. 23 now, man's heart is weaker. Can't see 0-0 till 80 minutes. I have said this so much because obviously Chelsea fans have been reminding me, if it's 0-0, 10 minutes to go, we're still going through. My heart rate personally cannot take 10 minutes to go at 0. Like, what do you do tell me, what does Alex Goldberg do in his house watching the game? 0-0 to go, 10 minutes to go, 0-0. What are you going to be doing?
It sounds funny, but I have a little rebounder, so like a little trampoline that I usually have in front of the TV, just so I can like multitask. I will definitely be on that thing while watching because I can't sit there. I don't bite fingernails, but I would in that scenario. Also, since we do a post pod after, I try and stay away from a drink. I try and stay away from that stuff, but that would really push me to drink. That would really push me to drink.
Bro, if we win this game and we go through, I can't promise that everything will be sober because I really can't.
I would hope not. No. Like, I will have an Emma Hayes type reaction if we go through.
That's the one thing, and I can't promise on my stream afterwards with Damien and Anita that things will be sober either. That champagne won't be here because, as far as I'm concerned, I'm just picturing Mason Mount and Reece James and all these guys walking onto that pitch in a final for the third time in our history, walking past that trophy, knowing that. I can't even talk about it. See,
that's the mad part, man. Is like this team, if they get there, or even to this point, I'm not going to even get ahead of myself. Even to this point, this team is out there playing for, the biggest competition here. I mean, we know World Cup is obviously technically, but I heard Jamie Carragher say it well. Like, you want to see the most competitive play, this is it. Like, the Champions League final is the pinnacle, but obviously the semifinal with the teams we have, this is it. And to know that we're there, yes, because Tuchel's come in and done a brilliant job, and also some senior players have been immense. That's always going to be needed. Like, find me just a purely young team. Even that Ajax team had a little senior, leadership here and there to get to where they did. But the fact that we're going to be in this with most likely, almost certainly, our player of the season being 22 years old, and Reece James and Pulisic and Kai Havertz being real big regulars, that's mad to me, Matisse, because like when I think of a team reaching this part, I'm thinking that their best players are 25, 26, 27, maybe 30, maybe 31. So that's the crazy part to me.
You speak on Mason there. I know obviously people will know he's probably your favorite player, arguably your favorite player. I don't think that's much discussion. But
I'll just say it now. He's my favorite player. Reece is second.
But I'm honest to God, when I say that, I don't think there's any competition for player of the year. And I honestly do believe when other names come into the fold, I think it's actually just, I'm not saying you're doing it to be edgy, but I honestly do believe that you're just trying to cause a conversation to make it interesting, because I really don't believe there's any competition for this player of the season award. I think people are forgetting just how good he was under Lampard at the start of the season. He was playing in that 4-3-3 in the number 8 role, creating opportunities. And really, just before Lampard was going to be sacked, that terrible Christmas period that we talk about, only him and Hudson-Odoi were really playing well, to my knowledge. Hudson-Odoi was coming on in cameos and having impacts and still not getting starts, and that's why everybody was kind of losing their shit, me included. And Mason Mount was scoring last-minute goals against Fulham and just trying to keep him in his job. Other than that, everybody else was playing awful. So I think when we take the whole season into account, I think he's been unreal. And obviously he has improved under Tuchel as well. There's some underlying stats that you look at, shots on goal, shot creating actions have gone up and things like that. Key passes, I can't remember if that was up, but he's definitely improved as well. But I think that improvement shouldn't overshadow the fact that he was actually still good at the start of the season. Very, very good at the start of the season. The only part that I wasn't happy with was when he was playing out wide under Lampard in the first couple of games, because Lampard wanted to play him out wide over Hudson-Odoi. And I remember speaking to you about that quite a lot. But other than that, as soon as he moved into that 4-3-3 and 8 role, I thought he was brilliant. Talk to me about, I'm going to create a hypothetical here after just before I do this super chat. Penalty shootout, right? Just because it could happen. It could happen. And that is honestly the worst case.
Bro, I will break out the alcohol if that happens.
I really do not motion back in the day. Maybe I could have done it. My internet's gone mad with YouTube and having like the byline afterwards and just everything going on content creation wise. If there was a penalty shootout, you could just go, like even Eunice would be doing a live stream, right? Imagine having to watch a penalty shootout in a live, it's just. Oh no, it's just too much has gone on.
It's funny. Like I've had people ask me, like, I'll speak to Mark Goldberg, who does live streams, obviously, watch-alongs. I've had people ask me, like, if I would ever do it. And on one hand, it appeals to me, obviously, because it's just like a extra way, I guess, for people to connect with how I am a fan of the team. But no, I don't. I won't be able to be for the public view during a Chelsea game. I'm not one of those people. Like, I don't know if anybody knows this. Maybe I've never said this to people who listen to my content, but my wife and son get out of the house. Now
really?
We're waiting.
Out of the house. Not even out
we're waiting right now to actually move into a proper house. So that's even bigger. But because we have grandparents 10 minutes away, they just get out. Even though there are rooms they could go in and still be fine, they get out. And it's not because I'm like an angry person, but my energy is just something they don't even want a part of, and fair play to them. So yeah, I don't think I could do a watch along, especially in a penalty shootout. No.
Yeah, because a lot of people, obviously, a lot of my viewers have been asking for me to do potential watch-alongs as well. I'm the same. I don't, as you can see, I don't hop on anybody's watch-alongs as well. There's loads of other channels, that have asked me, can you jump on this watch-along? I just always turn it down. There's no way in hell I don't think I could do a watch-along. The only thing I think I could do was maybe Don Robbie, because he has like this setup where he's got popcorn and drinks, and I probably will try and do something like that when I'm back in London. But I don't feel like I'm obligated to entertain. I feel like I can just watch the game and just make my passing comments on a couch like I would do at home. But if you put me in front of this camera here and tell me that 1,000 people are going to be watching me live and I've got to entertain or speak while watching, I just couldn't do it. I need to be in the zone focusing on the game. So it just couldn't happen. But a hypothetical I've got to do is, if we do get to a penalty shootout, who would be your 5 takers? And I want everybody in the chat to put your 5 takers as well. If we get to a penalty shootout, who would be your 5 Chelsea penalty takers? Because we know their penalty takers are unreal. Hazard, Benzema, Kroos, Modric. So, Alex, who would you?
Ramos. You're forgetting Ramos.
Ramos. Oh God, yeah, Ramos.
The guy. By the way, you'll joke with me about it, but I've dropped my Benzema fandom for this period. But I will just say, very robotically, if you know how many goals Benzema has already scored in his Real Madrid career, think about how many goals he would have scored if Ronaldo didn't take 10s, and now Ramos takes them. Yeah. But Benzema has always been second or third, and he takes them quite well. So, yeah, that's just how good Real Madrid are at penalties. And by the way, I haven't claimed to watch many Kroos penalties and stuff, but I got to think a Toni Kroos penalty is going to be pretty class as well, So they got a long list. And Eden, don't get me started with how good his friends are. So 5 takers. I'm not going to do an order, but I'm going to say 5 guys that would be comfortable taking a pen. The first one's a rogue shout, Matisse. And I'm not saying it because this clip went around a few days ago when we faced City in the cup final, but Azpilicueta, he takes a scary pen. Probably scary for us and the opposition, but yeah, I'm putting Aspi somewhere in that 5. I definitely am.
He's like Ashley Cole, Ashley Cole.
Yeah, no, that's a good comp there for sure. Yeah. You need a little something different in your 5 penalty takers, in my opinion. Jorginho's there. He is there. He definitely is. Once again, something different. Mount is in there for sure. He's just obviously he's had a miss before, but he's such a confident one, and he's also taken some high pressure ones. Like he took one for Derby County against United was the FA Cup or whatever. Great pen. He did it in the Super League. Not the Super. Oh God.
God, Alex, don't make me.
Wow, he did it in the Super Cup.
The parents paid you to say that.
That was a horrible slip up. I hope that's not foreshadowing, Matisse. That better not be foreshadowing. He did it in the Super Cup against Liverpool at the beginning of the season under Frank, right? I think he took
I think so. Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah. So Mount. So Aspi, Jorginho, Mount. I'm trying to think of also who would be likely to be starting at that point.
The rival fans are putting in Mendy and Kepa and Gilmore and Spoons Up Bell and
Spoons Up Bell. That's funny. I actually think Kepa might take a decent one, but anyway, no. I mean Timo. I think. I don't know though, Matisse.
Timo. This is my thing because Timo's a good penalty taker. Havertz is definitely on there for me because I think
Kai is there.
100% record for Bayer Leverkusen. I think I remember. Timo, I would have in there because he can strike a ball well. His technique is actually not that bad. But I just don't know with his confidence in front of goal, man. If he misses that penalty, I'm going to lose my shit. It's very similar to how Juan Mata used to always take our penalties as well. And I never wanted him to take them because he was always missing. I never understood why he always took them. He took them in the Champions League final. He missed again. I never got why Juan Mata took our penalties.
Yeah. No, okay, fair shout. So I'll give you if these 5 would actually be technically
on the pitch.
Out there together, but so it's Aspi, Jorginho, Mount, Kai, and you know what? If he's out there, Ziyech, because Ziyech does not seem like a player who's going to be nervous to me in that situation.
Yeah, he could be like Nicholas Anelka. Maybe he's too calm, but hopefully not.
I know. There's that side of it. Yeah.
Everybody talks about the John Terry slip, but it was actually it wasn't far from going in. It's the Anelka penalty that really pissed me off because he was just so casual. True. Yeah, I think he spoke about that on his documentary. But anyway, back to the super chats. I trust Timo will come good. Look at past strikers who had their first seasons, the most notable being the legend that is Drogba. John Sellers says that. Thank you so much. I kind of don't disagree with you. I'm not worried too much on Timo's long-term future. One, because I know Marina's going to give him every chance to succeed. She's not going to cash in early because she always wants to see big signings do well. We know that with Kepa. But also because his attitude, his movement, and his ability to get in the right position so often just tells me that if you do just get your finishing up, even to a 40%, a tolerable rate of being potent, you will get a lot of goals. He hasn't had his head drop. His attitude's been brilliant. He's got a lot of self-awareness in his interviews as well, which is really good to see. So I'm not really worried from that point of view. I just think technically he needs to brush up, and obviously then you hope next season it'll be better. There's an interesting one that Alex will be looking at here. I will change Mendy and put Kepa in goal. That will be my first change. I think Kepa is better with penalties than Mendy. That is an interesting one. Substitution-wise, if you had that fifth sub in extra time to put Kepa in, or even Caballero won't be on the bench. Or maybe he will be, actually. What do you think about that? Because Mendy, penalties-wise, a lot of people have their concerns.
I hear it. I hear the argument for that. But I put Mendy in there, man. Like, he's enough of our clear number one. And I also just don't think we've seen enough of him in penalties. I understand the argument for Kepa. I understand the argument for Caballero for certain. But at that point, Mendy still has his advantages, right? He can read it late, and he's a lot bigger, so he could still get a hand to it. So, like, there still is the advantage of having Mendy in pens, because maybe he's not as quick on his feet as a Kepa, and maybe he doesn't read it as well, but he can dive later, just factually, and still get it. So now I hear the argument for it. I don't think it's outlandish at all, but it's not a move I make. I think that move really just needs to be made when the discrepancy between your two keepers penalty-wise is like astronomical. And I don't think it's astronomical. Maybe someone can show me the stats and prove to me that there is a huge difference between Kepa and Mendy. But then again, on what sample size? Like, Mendy was just that Rennes last year in Ligue 1. And Kepa, he definitely has been part of some penalty shootouts with us, but I don't think it's a big enough sample size, to be honest.
Yeah, I think what's interesting as well, we didn't mention Giroud for the penalties, mainly because it's unlikely, or maybe not unlikely, but you never know if he's actually going to be on the pitch. But Giroud's got a good technique with a penalty as well, as we saw against, I think it was Sevilla. Was it Sevilla that he scored a penalty?
Yeah, part of the 4 goals. I think one of them.
Yeah, it must have been, isn't it? Yeah. So he's got a good technique, and I would expect him, with all of his experience, to be quite good in that situation after winning.
What about Thiago Silva?
Thiago Silva, I've never seen him take a penalty in my life. Has he taken penalties before?
I'm sure at some point he has. I mean, he's played long enough, but I just feel like this is really simplistic of me. I mean, he is Brazilian. We know he knows how to strike the ball. Like, we know, obviously, the ball still comes off of his foot quite cleanly. I'm sure he's taken plenty. And just like the experience factor would certainly make me think that he would score it, to be honest. And we know, like, penalty takers are not often who fans think they will be right away.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen most penalty shootouts. The first 4 people are all defenders.
Yeah. It's sometimes who's most confident in the moment when they do their little huddles, isn't it? Obviously, you have your standout candidates, and then sometimes it just goes to the guys that really want it. I remember this clip of Ronaldo for Portugal kind of convincing João Moutinho to take it. You're a good taker. Take it. And I wonder who would be our leader in that moment as well. YB1 says, Petr Cech, take off your suit and gears up for penalties. That's the dream, really. This is why I want him in the Champions League squad. He's in the Premier League one, not the Champions League one. I would dead ass bring on Petr Cech for the penalty shootout.
That would be amazing.
Oh, man. I wish. People are asking if he's on the bench. No, I really do wish, though. He was only included in the Premier League squad way back when. I'm going to do a fun thing now, which will be a combined 11 before we wrap up. A combined 11 of these two teams. And I think the main reason why I'll do it is because we're not playing like a Bayern Munich or, someone where we're clearly the second-rate team. I think Real Madrid, we're quite similar to them quality-wise. I do think that the only, massive striking difference is the experience. That's what everybody talks about. The know-how, been there and done it. They've all got most of them have got minimum 3 Champions League under their belt. That left-hand side, particularly for us, and their right-hand side, with their injuries to Vasquez and Carvajal, I think we've definitely got an opportunity with Pulisic and Chilwell to really take advantage of a weakened right-hand side as well. I don't know who's going to start right wing for them, but Vasquez is kind of underrated in the fact that he is just he's kind of like I'm not going to say they're Willian, but he does bring a lot of balance to their team, because obviously they've got a lot of young forwards as well in Vinicius and Rodrigo, and Hazard is obviously not as defensively committed sometimes off the ball. So he does bring that balance. And I don't know who they're going to start on that right-hand side, but it could unbalance them quite a bit. Who do you think actually will start down that right-hand side before we do the combined?
I'm not good at pronouncing his name, but Odriozola, or however you pronounce his name. Right. I feel like it'll be him. I know Valverde has been a little bit of a experiment over there, and that's more just he's a class player and he can't get into the midfield right now when it's Cruz, Casemiro, and Modric. But I don't think it'll be Valverde. Plus, he's been dealing with COVID, so he might be available, but I assume more off the bench as a midfielder. So I would think it's Odriozola. I forget though. Carvajal is also out for the season, right?
Yeah, he says yeah. So
right. So no, that
will play right back.
Carvajal. So I mean,
who would be the right winger?
I feel like it'll be Asensio, assuming it's Azar at left wing, Benzema up top. I feel like it'll be Asensio. I know it's a little hard done on Vinicius because then, he's not going to be on the left and then he wouldn't get the right. Rodrigo, I'd be shocked if he started. I feel like he's an off the bench option. I mean, I got to be honest, Vinicius and Rodrigo off the bench are two really blistering players to use off the bench. So, yeah, I feel like it would be Azar, Benzema, and Asensio. It also probably is the most experienced of the options. But
yeah. We'll get into the combined 11. We'll start with the goalkeeper. I mean, as much as I love Mendy, it probably will have to be Courtois. I don't know if you disagree there, but we've seen the reports of Courtois kind of looking for that redemption. He knows he's being called a snake. He's not coming back. I don't know what report it was, but he's not coming back the hero's welcome that Hazard will get. I think there was a lovely clip of Tuchel ignoring his handshake as well full time. Obviously not on purpose, but the Chelsea fans lapped it up. I mean, would you have Courtois as your combined 11 in goal?
I would. And by the way, that report that came out from, I think, The Athletic, right?
Yeah.
That actually, I mean, I'd be shocked if that source that The Athletic was quoting wasn't Christophe Terreur, because Christophe Terreur was on my podcast a couple weeks ago. I can ask Christophe. He'll probably tell me. He was on my podcast a couple weeks ago to preview the first leg, and he said that exact same thing about Courtois. He said that Courtois actually kind of loves being called the snake. It gets him going, and that, coming back to the bridge, especially if there were fans, would probably only make him perform better because he kind of thrives off of that and almost being the villain. So whatever. But if we're just going to grade him as a goalkeeper, I mean, both have an argument to be in there, but maybe we just give it to Courtois because he's done it longer. He's had now, I know his debut season for Real Madrid obviously wasn't good, and we certainly let him hear about it. But the last two seasons, he's been back to being Thibaut Courtois. So for just the tiebreaker, he definitely gets it.
Yeah, and also to add, I think, guys, put in your combined 11s as well. I'm going to put them on screen as we go through ours. We're going to do this on form, because I think if we do it by who's the better player overall, then I think it becomes too FIFA-like, and it's not really that difficult to pick in some certain positions, where if you do it on form, it's a little bit more interesting. So obviously Courtois goes in goal. I think back three, because they did play a back three, so they kind of pushed themselves into having to play this formation. I think in a combined 11, I'm not gonna switch formation for them. Who would your back three be? Because it's we're
not going to count Varane, right? Because Varane's out.
Varane's not available, so we've been very good defensively. I really can't look past our three unless Ramos is coming back into it, but he's been injured, so.
Yeah, you're going to hard do either Christensen or Rudiger if you put Ramos in there. With that said, I feel like you have to put Ramos in there.
You do, I think, yeah.
You have to. I mean, come on. The guy has won so many Champions Leagues. When he's out there, is always Sergio Ramos. So we've been saying it a lot on the pod, even when we're just talking about our own Chelsea team, that sometimes it's going to be really unfair on Christensen or maybe Rudiger. So once more, for this team that no one's going to care about in the end, we're going to have to give the short stack to one of those guys. So I would go.
So many shouts for Militao as well. Militao's really rated. I really think.
Yeah, absolutely. But he loses the tiebreakers, I feel, of longevity and.
Imagine Ramos and Silva in the same defense. Jesus Christ, that is mouthwatering.
I mean, I think it is. I think I just go Ramos is maybe the right center back, Silva is the middle center back, and Rudiger is the left center back.
Yeah. Because Rudiger's been playing that left-hand side really well as well. Whereas Christensen sometimes played middle. Now he's gone to right side. His position isn't as certified.
Which isn't his fault, by the way. He's been brilliant at both, but it's like I'm trying to make it somewhat realistic.
Yeah, somewhat realistic. And I think, Christensen is quite deceptively quick, but you definitely need some sort of pace in there with those two aging centre-backs as well. So Ramos, Silva and Rudiger, that's some mentality in a back three. That's ridiculous. We'll move to left wing back first of all before we go to right wing back. Who would you play left wing back? Chilwell's been I have to say, Chilwell. he's been very good in the last month and a half under Tuchel.
Yeah, if Ferland Mendy had been playing all this time recently and was just doing his thing as well, I would give it to him. But no, I would give it to Chilwell. I mean, come on. He's been really good now for a few games before when the international break was. And the international break was now a little while ago. So Chilwell. Yeah.
I remember one of the games at home after the international break, he didn't start. I can't remember who he was against, but I was not happy. I was like, why is Alonso playing? Chilwell's actually been really good recently. I have
Talk
to
about winning a job back, by the way. Like,
well done. Yeah.
Won the job back.
Wow. It had to be done. It really did. And then right wing back. This is where it becomes interesting because Aspie, right wing back, I'm not a big fan of it just because of going forward. He's not great. Reece James doesn't play that often. He's kind of rotated in and out. Hudson-Odoi definitely doesn't get a shout anymore because he hasn't played in ages. And then for Real Madrid, what options have you got? Carvajal, but he's injured.
But they're injured. So if Vasquez and Carvajal were available, I'd probably give it to Vasquez at this point. Yeah. Maybe. I still think Reece is the best player of all these guys, but if we're trying to be a little fair, we're trying to go off of recency, but also longevity mixed in with that. I don't know, a balance of that. Maybe you give it to Vasquez because he has kind of transformed into this new position, Lucas Vasquez, fairly well. I think Real Madrid fans really like him when he's not an attacker compared to when he used to be an attacker. So I think it's worked well for him, but he's not available. Either is Carvajal, who obviously has a bit of seniority on his side as well. So I can't give it to Odriozola. I can't even pronounce his name correctly. How can I give it to him? So I think I have to give to Reece or Aspie. Can we just say Reece/Aspie? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just reading Madrid Zone's updates as well. They're saying that Zidane is apparently planning. I don't know how solid Madrid Zone is as a source. I only really started following them when Perez was talking non-stop over that week about the Super League. Zidane is planning on starting. Is it Vivada? I can't pronounce that brother. but him, and then possibility that Marcelo starts as well. So I don't know what's going on there. It's gonna be interesting. Did you say he's been tested at right back sometimes?
Valverde?
Yeah, Valverde. Sorry, yeah.
He was recently, which was a bit like bizarre. Was it the previous leg? The previous round?
Was it Liverpool?
Was it against Liverpool in the second leg? I feel like it may have been. But yeah, I'm just going to the report.
Because, do you know what? Because I was quite confused because I know naturally he's a holding midfielder and everybody's been talking about him so much in terms of him coming back, and I was like, why is everybody discussing him so much when it's quite obvious that Casemiro, Modric, and Kroos will be the midfield three? I don't see how he gets in, and now I guess this would be the way because if he was to play right back.
He's a class player. Yep, and he did. Yeah, in that second leg against Liverpool, Valverde did start as a true right back. It's a 4-3-3 formation here. They had Nacho and Militao at center back. They were really hurt at center back, and Valverde was the traditional right back. They had the midfield, classic midfield, the Kroos, Casemiro, and Modric. And actually, it's only off of who scored, but Valverde got man of the match. I watched the game. He certainly wasn't like a pure right back, but he did fill the role as well as someone could, who's definitely a real midfielder. And I think the danger of Valverde starting at right back for us is he's just a better player than Odriozola. Like, no offense to Odriozola. I'm sure he's better than I'm giving him credit for. But Valverde is a really nice player. Like, I remember last season when I was watching Real Madrid a lot because it was Eden's first season. So it was all kind of just exciting to know his new teammates. Regardless, I found myself watching Real even more than normal, besides my Benzema fandom. And Valverde was a player that, like, every game in the midfield was like, wow, we know they're senior midfielders, but this kid is special. And I mean, if he starts at right back, that's an interesting wrinkle. It like works for both sides, against both sides and for both sides. So like, he's going to be slower. He's not a traditional right back, so that maybe that could help Chelsea. But then again, did Tuchel really ever think he'd face Valverde at right back? So, I guess you can look at it both ways.
Yeah. Who did you end up going with at right wing back in the end? Was it Azpilicueta, just to be balanced?
Screw it. I'm going to be biased. I'm going with Reece. I'm going with Reece. That's it.
Yeah, I think I would lean towards Reece as well. I just think when it comes to because Reece defensively is good. He's very competent. So for me, when it comes to just overall what he's going to be bringing to the game, is crossing ability as well. If you're playing anyone up front with any sort of heading ability, then he's a plus there as well. Moving into midfield, it would be a pivot. So somebody's going to miss out. That's world class because there's only 2 options here, and then it's 3 up front. So, I mean, who are you going with? Because you've got Kroos, Modric, you've got Casemiro, you've got Kante. Jorginho's been very, very good under Tuchel as well.
This is impossible, and I will admit this is very unfair on Real Madrid because there's just no reason why they shouldn't have all 3 of their guys as options. But I'm just going to be a little unique here. Yeah. And I'm just going to say, screw it. You're going to have so many good attacking options around these guys if you're combining these teams that sorry, Kroos, sorry, Modric, sorry, Jorginho. I'm just putting Casemiro and Kante out there. And you have, and remember, they're not the same player because Casemiro is more of a traditional 6, like a real, maybe the world's best true DM. And then Kante is a defensive midfielder, but he doesn't hold to a spot. So, wow, just do that because at this point, you're just going to make life a living hell for the opponent.
Yeah, that's a proper brick wall you put there. And to be honest, that type of holding midfielder is probably what best pairs up with Kante, an actual natural holding midfielder like Casemiro. So I think the blend is quite good there. And then who would be your front 3 then for that game? Well, it's just for the combined 11. Benzema is definitely going up front. That's not even a debate.
I let you say that. Yeah.
Well,
I didn't need to say that. Rio Ferdinand already said last week, if Benzema was in the Chelsea side, we may have already got this thing in the bag. Mount's got to be in there. I don't care who's up there. Mount's got to be in there.
I can't really disagree. He's on great form.
I mean, if he's a key player, maybe the key player for Chelsea, he has to be in there.
Yeah.
Man.
Not easy.
Well, you said we have to go off of form. So that really hurts Eden.
Yeah, it does. It does, to be honest. Pulisic's in great form. Really good form.
Like, we have polar opposites here where Eden gets legacy and overall, like, if you're just going to still say who's the better player, like, I know Eden's running at a time where now he really has to start performing again, but he still obviously gets, like, the bigger and greater name. Yeah. But, I mean, form matters.
If you're looking at it from an objective standpoint, who do you think is more likely to perform tomorrow, Pulisic or Eden Hazard? I'd have to say Pulisic right now.
Okay. Yes, but didn't you just say on the podcast with me last week, and I agreed with you, and now we're hearing reports that this is like a different game for Eden? We did say that if there was ever a time for Eden to just feel like he's Eden again, it's this game. It's the Stamford Bridge pitch. It's the fact that he is kind of a heck of a lot more fit now than he's been for a long time at Real Madrid. And yeah, he wasn't amazing on Saturday. He wasn't amazing when he came in against us, but we're seeing flashes. On Saturday, he had that outrageous back heel pass. Like, we're seeing some things from Eden that are signs. So if there was ever a time a cool, calm, and collected guy like Eden would actually rev things up a bit,
it would be now.
It could be in this second leg because we said it on the pod together. Eden could view this as a shortcut. Like, he didn't play much this season, but now he's a game away from the Champions League final. He could view this as a shortcut to all of a sudden really, like, improve his legacy. So Pulisic on form, Eden on just what he could still bring to the table. So with all that said, Kai. No, I'm kidding. I'll give it to Pulisic because you know what? Pulisic scored in the first leg, so I'll give it to Pulisic.
Yeah, I'd give it to Pulisic as well. And we're not underrating Hazard because obviously we know he's extremely talented, but he's not on form. He hasn't been for a while, and I think it's just the danger of the fact that he knows the Stamford Bridge turf very well, and that could just spark some sort of life into him. But in terms of just if you was a gambling man, you'd have to put it on Pulisic because he's on form and he's a big game player. This is exactly what he loves to do. And Eden has his Champions League record. As much as I love him, that's the only chink in his armor. His Champions League record isn't the greatest. And it's weird because the same with Diego Costa. His Champions League record wasn't the greatest either. I think they had a season where they weren't in it because we had such an awful year. The previous years won, and obviously we went to win the title under Conte, and we didn't have any European football. But their Champions League records aren't the best. Costa's for Chelsea wasn't great to my memory, and neither was Hazard. So yeah, and
he missed 2 seasons of Champions League with Chelsea because
we had a
season under Mourinho and then a season under Conte where we didn't qualify for Champions League. So yeah, I mean, I'm not defending him. Obviously, he would still, based on his standard, want to perform better and should. But I also feel like Eden just never really got like the chances maybe that others would get in the Champions League, and also his surrounding group of players was really under standard. But yeah, no, absolutely. That has been kind of his Achilles heel, that people can use that against him. It's not the World Cup. He was amazing at the World Cup. It's the Champions League for Eden. So yeah. So Pulisic definitely gets that for me. And it's his time of season. You already kind of said that, but it is Pulisic's time of season. You know, he really does like this time, apparently. So yeah, good with him.
Adrian said, bro, surely he won't do this to us. Listen, when it comes to Eden Hazard, don't think that he's going to be out there sobbing and sentimental about his performance. He wants to win the Champions League. It's very clear.
That's and the thing that scares me is Eden has a smile on in these type of moments. Like he said, it was nice to see friends last week. What scares me about Eden's mentality is I don't think he's going to be all that nervous. I know he hasn't been in this spot that many times, but we know he plays his best when he is happy and smiling and feeling free. And if he sees Azpilicueta, a good friend of his, across from him, he's going to just feel like he's in the back garden, as he said before, and just playing. So, yeah, that scares me.
Yeah, it does worry me a lot. Listen, the nerves are building up. Chelsea versus Real Madrid Wednesday night. We've got PSG Man City tonight to look at as neutrals, I guess. I'm not really bothered who gets through, because I think once you get to a final, you can beat anyone. We've shown that we can beat City, and PSG are definitely not perfection, as we saw in that first leg. So I'm just going to enjoy that game, and then Wednesday is going to be absolutely crazy. Next time I see you, Alex, we'll be talking on the post-pod for, well, next time we do a football bit of content, we'll be talking for the post-pod after the Real Madrid game. And yeah, it's going to be nerve-wracking. Final thoughts, and let them know any content you got coming out on the Byline. Obviously, the links are always in the description for the Byline, and obviously the link to Alex's Twitter as well. So let them know what you got coming up, bro.
Appreciate it. So one episode before the game, I'm actually in an hour going to record with Asmir Begovic. So at the end, we'll appease both of our other interests and we'll talk some NFL. But don't worry, the first half of it will definitely be about this second leg. I had more journalists and people on before the first leg to preview it, and now this is a bit different. Obviously, Asmir is still an active footballer. He is quite good friends with Eden Hazard. Kids went to the same school, obviously, when Eden was still here in London. They lived pretty close. So Eden, he knows quite well. He knows Courtois well, knows football well. So it'll be interesting to hear what he thinks about the second leg. And then, yeah, the piece of content after that will be a post-pod with Matisse and I, and certainly a third person as well. If Chelsea move on, I know CFC Daily will also be part of it. He's just one of those where he'll only join if it's a really, really positive moment, and we love him for that. So, yeah, it will be no shortage of content for sure.
No, nobody is more nervous than CFC Daily right now.
He's probably in the hospital at this point.
Yeah, so guys, listen, if you was ever wondering, because obviously I know we have a few rival fans, if you was ever wondering on the channel art, what the Byline is on my channel art on YouTube, and obviously it's always in the description, that's the podcast I do with Alex. So after I do my stream with Dami and Anita, I go onto the Byline with Alex and we discuss the game, but we do it from a different viewpoint because we've got patrons that will send in voice notes. So it's kind of like a little radio station kind of vibe to it at times, where you've got opinions flying in and from the patrons, which is always good. You get instant reaction from them, questions as well. And we do, little fun games as well, picking. We got over and unders actually at the start of the season that we have to go back and look at.
No, I'm not revisiting those. I'm not revisiting those.
We have to go back to that as well, which is ridiculous. I'm sure we've definitely flopped on that one. So yeah, guys, check that out. That's, literally only $2 a month for that content. And it's not just me on there. Obviously, I do the post-pods with Alex after every single Chelsea game. He's got big guests on there, commentators, journalists, former players, current players even at times as well, like you said with Begovic. So it's well worth it. You know what I'm saying? As you can see, guys, I don't really promote anything on here in terms of advertising. I've had a few offers. I really only want to make sure that only the best sponsors or the best advertising is on this channel, not just anything that you'll get here. So when I say that I recommend it, I really do. And if you want to smash the like button, go for it. Make sure you subscribe if you're new. It's been a great episode. We've gone through a lot of things. I'm nervous as hell. And yeah, without further ado, people, I will see you obviously for the review tomorrow. There won't be any more content from me on this channel until then. I'll probably be dotted around on a few other channels today as well. And yeah, Alex, thanks for joining me. I will speak to you after Real Madrid. And yeah, God help us all, people. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for the review. In a bit, people. Peace. Perfect.